Namaste, and welcome to this Ask Me Anything Volume 12. It's been a year since we've been doing these videos, and I've greatly enjoyed it. I hope you have too. I just want to start by saying a Happy New Year, and I hope that this year brings for you everything that you want, including deep and profound peace and a stable awakening that is going to spill over into every area of your life and allow you to experience abundance and joy and a deep sense of oneness and love. So I really wish that for you. And the fact that you're watching this, listening to this, is evidence that that is already unfolding for you. So can't stop it. It's already happening. So as always with these Ask Me Anything videos, I try to take some time at the beginning of each month to go through the questions that have been, or the comments that have been put underneath this video. So if you have a question or something you want to share, a comment for next one, feel free to put it under this video on YouTube here, and then I will address it at the beginning of February. We're in January now, 2023. So let's get started. So Susan Talkman says, thank you, Helen, for the wonderful answers to those wonderful questions. I have often wondered about the duality of near-death experiences and afterlife communications. Also, I can never hear enough about desire for something means it's already manifesting because it is all one. My love and gratitude. So, yeah, the near-death experiences we were talking about in volume 10 and 11 are and were in duality. There's no full and final awakening, although sometimes it does lead to that. It spurs somebody on to experience a full and final awakening. But the realization that we're not the body is not the end of it, really, is it? Awakening has to go deeper than that. So and of course, there is nothing wrong with duality at all. The sense of duality remains even after realization has occurred, awakening has occurred, because there is always going to be, while we have our senses and our body, a sense of duality, a sense of time and space and change and evolution and all of that. So nothing wrong with the sense of duality, and actually using the self is using the sense of duality now, manifesting as teacher and student to awaken itself. So there's nothing wrong there, as long as we know it's not ultimately what's true. The sense of duality can even be quite fun when we know it's only a sense. And I'm glad you like hearing about the manifestation and the desire. It was a huge relief to me when I finally figured out that because I want it, it's already in progress, in process, in manifestation. And that the desire is the thought and emotional form of that before it comes into physical reality. And that just took the pressure off of me. I don't have to make it happen. Desire was one of those places where I was still really holding on to the idea of being a separate being, because I have to make my desires come into manifestation. But if it's already unfolding, that's a very different energy, isn't it? Very different. So thank you. Laurie Carlson says, Helen, are our lives predestined? Much love. Well, I want to read and answer this one in, well, I'm going to answer this one briefly, and then I'll answer another one that's very similar later, and I'll reference back to that. So, are our lives predestined? So this is one of those questions where our mind wants a yes and a no, or a no answer, right? It wants me to say, yes, life is predestined and there's nothing you can do about it. Or no, it's not, and we have a conscious ability to steer where it's going. But the ultimate answer to that question has to be yes and no, or yes, it is predestined until it's not. And that may seem really, really confusing, but hopefully I can clarify. When we're believing ourselves to be a separate being, our lives are predestined in that we're just experiencing the result of these thoughts. All our experiences as a separate being are the result of our thoughts, reflection, a mirror image of our thoughts. So it's going along without our control because we're believing these thoughts, these experiences have to happen. Gradually, very, very incredibly slowly, over countless lifetimes, the infinite self that we really are, because we're never actually separate, even if we're sure we are, is becoming tired of these same old thoughts. So it's releasing these thoughts and moving to a higher frequency thought as a separate being. So more loving, open, compassionate thought. So our experience is just slowly, slowly upgrading. And I do mean really slowly. It can take someone a whole lifetime to forgive themselves for something. And some people leave these bodies with resentment still there from the beginning of that lifetime. So it's predestined along this gradually improving path, just like this, so slowly. And then when we begin to realize that we're not actually a separate being after all, we begin to see the formless ground of our being, the pure awareness, silence, stillness, consciousness, the presence that is you, which is undivided. Then it starts to take a different turn. Then it starts to be an experience of reality, and our experience upgrades. It's a continuous state or condition of awakening. It's not really an experience, but there isn't really another word I can use. If you can think of something that's continuous, unbroken experience. So when the self comes to recognize itself, there's a degree of choice in that then, conscious. We've always had that choice, but we're not stuck experiencing our thoughts on this predetermined path. So there's a way that our life would play out if we never woke up to the truth. And then there's a way it plays out when we wake up to the truth. We go along, and suddenly there's this awakening where what we can experience, the quality of our lives can really improve drastically. Like everything from lack and suffering and not enoughness to love and abundance in all of its forms. All the ways inwardly and outwardly that we can experience that. But of course, then, so we say, no, that's not predetermined at that point, predestined. We're not controlled by outer events. Outer events happen, reinforce our thought patterns as a separate being. Those thought patterns seem even more true, so therefore we experience them, and it keeps going like this. Who knows how many lifetimes this cycle's been going on for. And then we wake up, we come out of that, we see that life can be a direct, deepening experience of reality, that there is no separate being, that there's only one of us, that everything I perceive is myself. But of course, predestined or not, eventually we have to transcend those two opposites, because even this awakening is just happening. It was on the cards for this lifetime, cannot be stopped. It's not an event. It's a gradual unfolding of awakening that seems to speed up right at the end. The self's experiencing itself as a separate being through thoughts, lifetime after lifetime, over and over again, every single experience it can possibly have as a separate being, and then some point says, I'm just done with that. It's old, it's too tight, too constricting. It's really quite hellish, actually, by the time you come out of it. And what determines when that happens? Who knows? When it comes out of it, except that it's already unfolding. If you're listening to something like this, is that predetermined too then? What would be the controlling factor of when a human being wakes up to truth? Except for a gradual coming out of the fascination with phenomena and thoughts as dictating our experience. So predetermined or not, predestined or not, fate or not, yes and no. But if it is predestined, it's predestined as the universe wanting to become conscious of itself, never as a separate being, because there isn't such a thing. There is no you and me. There's just it, the all, the oneness, the supreme self, the awareness, the consciousness. That's all there is, and it's singular everywhere at all times. So yes and no. And hopefully you can, if there's any frustration that comes up from a yes and a no, hopefully you can use that. Where's the place where this makes sense? I just gently would like to experience the paradox of both answers being true inside myself, in a place where I really somehow, not here, but here, get this on a real deep experiential level. I hope that helps. Diane Spencer says, wonderful, Helen, thank you. Wishing you and all of us a truly happy holiday season. Thank you, Diane, and the same to you. Had a restful break, and I'm raring to go again. I hope you did too. Vuchika says, my question is about having children or not. I find it is the most challenging aspect of my life. When I was younger, I thought these things will come naturally. Now, even if they didn't, I just cannot stop thinking and hoping. But at the same time, it looks too scary and time-consuming. Any thoughts? Thank you. Well, it's challenging, isn't it, when we have something going on in our life that isn't flowing the way we want, especially something we may want so very much. So I would, the best chance for anything to manifest ever is when we come out of all thoughts about it completely. So it doesn't mean thoughts disappear, but when we are not believing it, those thoughts don't produce an emotional response in our body, tension, fear, excitement. When I think I'm going to get what I want, I get excited and inflated. When I think I'm not going to get what I want, I feel depressed and tight and tense, fearful, whatever negative state. If we come out of all thoughts about it completely, how do we do that? Well, by seeing that the manifestation is unfolding according to a reflection of what we're valuing inside. So as we're valuing thoughts, will I get what I want or not? Then we're making it possible for the lower aspects, for anything that can manifest in any particular moment. And this goes for your question, but for anything, there is a range of things we can experience in this moment based on the reflection of the thought. So I'm not going to get what I want. So only a certain few possibilities can manifest out of that, and you can pretty much guess what they are. The same old experience we've been having. And then I might get what I want, and I should, and I will, and if I just try hard enough, and then eventually the thought comes in our evolution as separate beings, if I let go and surrender, and then eventually thought begins to recognize that there is something outside of thought. It can't understand that, but it nonetheless can think about it. So eventually, with the realization that thought is unable to directly contact reality, and the realization that I'm not a separate being, all the thoughts of a separate being become devalued, irrelevant. Not wrong, just irrelevant, because all these thoughts, will I get what I want or not, are pertaining to this imaginary separate being person that we think we are. So I would spend my time, if I was you, really finding out to who this desire belongs, and can it be impeded as the self. You can also, as the infinite self, I would really look at that. Really look at the I that wants this rather than the desire. All of the attention goes to the desire. Is it going to show up? And none, pretty much none at all, or very little in terms of how much time we spend in our waking state thinking about, inquiring about who it is that wants it. Because if who wants this desire is not at all who we thought, then can this desire even show up for someone if I still feel that I'm a separate being really holding on to that tightly? Maybe this isn't showing up to kind of help you come out of identification as a separate being, and then the fullness of it can flow. So we've got this mixed allegiance going on of, I really want to wake up to truth. I really want to see the infinite being that I am, that everyone is, my formless, groundless space of being. And I also want this thing as a separate being. And we don't realize that those two are kind of in opposition. I'm not saying to let go of the desire. I'm not saying that. Feel it as much as you can. But find out who wants it, really, as if it's the most important thing you could do right now, because it is. And then you're going to begin to experience this whole range, the higher level of possibilities. And then outside of thoughts completely, miracles can occur. Miracles are just what happens spontaneously when no thoughts are impeding the manifestation, when the manifestation isn't having to take the shape of our thoughts. We call that a miracle, something that we could never have seen coming, never have dreamt of. That's the best possible chance for it to happen for you. It sounds like a lot of work, but it's much easier than worrying about, will this thing or won't this thing happen? You can feel that that's not the truth, where your spirit wants to go, because it feels so terrible. It's in separation, and therefore mind really clings on to it. I can only be happy when I get this thing that I want, but be happy first. Find out who you are, and then see what shows up as a reflection of that. And if it's supposed to happen, it will. If it isn't, it won't. But from the awakened place, there will be utter peace, love, and joy in that, and a total knowing. And I'm not talking here, I'm talking my whole being will know this is the right thing for me right now. So either way, happiness, freedom, love, peace, all of that. Okay, so Lena Lookway has a very similar question to Laurie's, so maybe we'll just put these both together. It says, Dear Helen, thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I listened to all of your Ask Helen Anything so as not to repeat the questions, and yes, I found the answers on some of my questions. Wonderful. I have a concept that after death of our bodies, we are, as an energy field, will find a suitable body for our next life. However, Nisargadatta Maharaj said that everything is spontaneous. Ramana Maharshi said, there is neither creation nor destruction, neither destiny nor free will, neither path nor achievement. This is the final truth. As I understand it, Maharaj and Ramana said that it absolutely doesn't matter what we do in this life. We will be born whatever it will turn out. My question, does our next birthplace depend on who we are, how we felt, what we achieved spiritually, and what we did in this life? Please, can you give your perspective on this question? Thank you very much. Much love, Lena. So this is very similar to Laurie's question, isn't it? And maybe go and listen to that and my answer from that one too. So the challenge again here is the mind works in duality. It sees two options, option A, option B, and it wants to know which one is true, whereas reality is transcendent of those two options. So these great spiritual beings have said pretty much whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's no creation and destruction. You've said here, you've quoted, there's neither path nor achievement, destiny nor free will. None of that exists. And that's true. That is true. Also, wherever you finished off in your previous lifetime will determine also where you begin this lifetime. Just as all of us that are drawn to this kind of video, this kind of channel, this kind of subject, finished off very, very close to being done with thoughts in the last incarnation. How are both of those true? How can it be that both of those are true, both perspectives? Given that the great sages and saints of the past have always really emphasized and stressed the absolute reality where nothing is happening, there's nobody for it to happen to, there could be no time, no change, nothing. There could be no duality, no sense of duality even there. So in that situation, no creation, no destruction, those are all concepts. No free will, no destiny, nothing. All concepts. utterly true. And also true at the same time, that absolute void of nothingness that is fullness of potential for things to show up, manifest. Bearing in mind that manifestation never really happens. It's not a new thing arising out of something else. Manifestation is only a making visible, perceptible, that which is always here. Visible, perceptible to our mind, to our senses, all of that. So, does the next birthplace depend on who we are, how we felt, what we achieved? Yeah, how much we've come out of our thoughts in previous lifetimes, what frequency of thoughts we were resonating with. If we have finished one lifetime feeling very angry, resentful, maybe even wanting revenge, something like that, then that's where we're going to start off next time. If we finished that lifetime feeling very compassionate, able to forgive and love, that's where we're going to start off next lifetime with potential for maximum evolution. Why are both of those true? Well, because you're the infinite nothingness showing up as a human being. When it shows up as a human being, it seems to, sense of duality, not actual duality, it seems to have the power of choice, time, evolution, change, beginnings, endings, all of that seem to come into play. And then it can choose through the duality of thoughts. Firstly, do I want this thought or this thought? And then eventually, do I want this thought or do I want to directly experience reality beyond thoughts? And it has this illusion of choice then. So if you can imagine the infinite nothingness, the infinite self, beyond creation, destruction, all of that as being the ocean, and then the individual but not separate being that is evolving through many lifetimes. Imagine lifetimes, because it's not separate. But we could say bodies are coming and going, and each time a human body appears, it evolves to a higher vibration, like a wave on the ocean. The wave gets a little bigger, a little modified each time a human body comes and goes. Next one comes and goes. So both of those kind of are happening at the same time. Even the word both, though, suggests two-ness. The deepest realization is where both of those are seen to be the same. Form and formless are one. Individual, soul, but not separate. Individual means indivisible two-ness. The indivisible oneness appearing as two. So the individual soul, evolving through many lifetimes, will continue to do so. It will get to a stage where it evolves, where it doesn't need a physical body to do that. Is the infinite nothingness. If you could imagine all this vast infinite being condensing itself down into a somethingness that isn't actually separate, just like a wave on the ocean surface is unique. No other wave has that shape ever. But it is nonetheless part of the ocean. It's water, just like the rest of the ocean. The blade of grass, completely different to every other blade of grass, but connected through its root system. It is one with every other blade of grass, cannot be otherwise. So both are true. And certain teachers may stress at certain times, depending on the question that comes from that person, certain aspects of that. So there's a point where all we're interested in is the formless infinite, when it shows up as its formlessness. And we discard the manifestation completely. That's not real. That's not real. I'm not my body, I'm not my mind. And certain teachers focus on teaching at that particular place to help us realize, and we all need that, of course. But then that has to spiral around eventually into, back around into, yes, but all of this, my body, my thoughts, my emotions, my experiences, my relationships, everyone else, everything else that could ever be, is and was, is also this formless infinite being. It's also me. So eventually it comes back around to where they're both the same. You can experience yourself as infinite void, nothingness. I don't really like the word void. I don't even know why I said it, but who knows, maybe somebody resonates with the void, because it suggests to me absence of life, vitality, anything special, sentience, absence of all of those, when in fact it's the total presence of those. And you can experience yourself as this individual soul, consciousness, spirit, whatever you want to call it, traveling, evolving, learning, letting go. And there is that point where both of those have the same meaning inside your heart. Both of them give you the same peace. Both of them are seen to be one. They're not really both. Well, the word both doesn't make any sense at all. We can play with a sense of duality, right? I hope that helps. Marianne Cosmo says, love these questions and answer sessions that you do. They're very helpful. Many thanks. Thank you. I'm glad they're helpful. So this one is Ralia. I think I've said that right, hopefully. Your question was posted twice somehow, so I'm just going to answer it once. Dear Helen, thank you very much for this opportunity to ask questions. I have this question for some time already, and periodically I lean to one side or the other. Please clarify. You were saying that we are on this endless journey to improve yourself, to be happy and peaceful, but we are already happy. We are complete. We are perfect. I feel that I understand that, I guess, like spirits. However, what to do with our human side, which we want to improve? For example, I'm working on my criticism and self-righteousness for some time already with partial success. Should I continue to work on it, or just leave it out altogether and concentrate on the bigger picture, contemplation, meditation, self-inquiry? Or maybe you have a better suggestion. Thank you very much in advance. So again, there's a place where they're both the same thing. Can you see again how mind thinks they're two different things? Should I work on my individuality, or work on my seeing my formlessness even clearer? And they're like two oars in a boat. If you want to travel forward and you're only rowing with one oar, then you're going to go around in circles. If you're rowing with the other oar, you're going to go in the other circle, clockwise and anti-clockwise. If you row with one and then this one and then this one and then this one, you're going to move forward. And eventually you're doing them both at the same time, because you realize there's only one actually. And then you move forward a lot faster. So this idea of two-ness pervades our thinking even here. And of course you want to work on releasing judgment, criticism of yourself and others, all of that. Of course you do. And that's much easier to do when you see there are no others. So you're rowing with this life, there's no others, it's only me. And then with this other yeah, but I am the self. I want to be kinder to myself. Right? It feels right to be more loving to myself and more forgiving and more compassionate. And then as I'm less judgmental, it's easier for me to see clearer what I really am. And as I see clearer what I really am, that I'm everywhere, I feel more compassion towards everyone else. And I feel kind of better about myself because I'm being kinder to everyone else too. So they mutually come together into this oneness of what they have always been. And again, just like my previous answer to the previous one, this individual wave on the ocean and the ocean are the same. It's all water, isn't it? It can show up, you can show up as an individual being, but not separate. And you can also show up as the everythingness, and you're also showing up as everything else. As someone, you're having an experience of being a someone. You're also being everything, and you're also being nothing. Which one of those is most correct? None of them, because they're all the same perspective. These are deep questions you're all asking today, huh? I love it. So you are already perfect, complete, total. And you're on this seeming evolution through time and space, where if you look at where you are now compared to 10 years ago, you'd be much more loving and compassionate to yourself than you were. If you could scoot forward 10 years in the future, you'd be even more peaceful, wise, all of that, right? This is theming unfolding of what you are. Perfection, unfolding as ever deeper perfection. Already so, unfolding as even more of that. The paradox of reality. So a really helpful question to me was to really look at how are these two the same thing? Can I really work on myself as an individual, being more forgiving or letting go of criticism, as you said here, of self-righteousness? Can I really work on that and not have it impact everyone else in a positive way if we're all one? And flipping that on its head, can I really work on seeing that we're all one, that formlessness has no boundaries, no edges, is everywhere at all times, indivisible, and not have that impact my individual self too? So whether you're rowing with the left or you're really rowing with the right one, when you're rowing with the right one, you're really rowing with the left one, rowing with the left one. So really there have never been any circles. We just might not have seemed to be making any progress for a while. Felt like we were doing this, but really we're still moving forward. So you can't get it wrong, actually. But this is, again, a very intelligent question. So Shankara says, Dear Helen, thank you very, very much for your guidance. May I ask this question to confirm my insight? The truth of being reveals itself even in the form of denial. When we say I am not, we prove that we are, because something has to be there to say I am not, right? Yes. So if you deny your own existence, if you say, if you say, start off by saying I exist, that comes out of your mouth, or it's a thought or whatever. If you say I do not exist, then even as a separate being, I do not exist as a separate being. Something also uses the mouth to say that. Even if you don't speak it, think it, it's there. Something is aware of both of those, right? So even by denying our existence, something is aware of that denial, as you said. It proves the existence of the awareness self that we are, whether we are saying that we do or don't exist. Whether we're saying we exist as a separate being or as the infinite self, it is still heard, known by that power that runs the entire universe. There is nothing you can do to deny. You can say in words a denial, I do not exist. But the awareness that hears that cannot not exist. It always is. And at nighttime, in deep sleep, it's aware of no sense of time, no sense of duality, no sense of change, no experience. And in the dream state, in sleep, it's aware of mental images, dreams happening. And then in the waking state, it's also aware of thought process going on, and also sense perception going on, and the experience that's happening around the body. And it's aware of the body too. But the awareness, it remains unchanged, constantly, continuously, forever. It's equally aware of no human body present as it is of a human body present, and unchanged, independent of all of these things, and yet fully embracing them. So absolutely, I am, something has to notice that I am not. Always here. So then the question becomes, was very important to me, what is it that's constantly here that even hears this denial? And pretty certain you've got that. Yeah, I can feel that. Wonderful. Christina, thank you so much again for your wonderful timestamps, the chapters, I think YouTube calls it. Really, really helpful. We'll get those put into the actual description so that they can come up on the thing. Thank you for taking the time to do that. Really appreciate it. Last but not least, D. Jimmy 92 says, are the realizations like I am not the body and I am the awareness of awareness itself or of the body-mind. So what is it that's realizing I am not the body? I am the awareness, as we were just saying with Shankara's question. What is it that's realizing that? Can the body and the mind have this profound realization? I am not this body. Or maybe in a fuller realization, I am not only this body. I am this body too. I am also every other body. So whatever that is that's realizing, is it the body and mind? Well, let's look at the body first. Can the body function independent of you? Can it think? Can it experience? Can it use its senses, the body, without you? At nighttime, deep sleep, when you're not interested in the senses, duality, all of that, you're just being your pure undivided self for 8 hours or whatever it is. Can the body experience anything? Can the body realize anything? Can thought happen in that place? Absolutely not. And there's nothing wrong with the body. It's beautiful. The cells have its own kind of innate intelligence, maintains itself perfectly, does what it does. But it does rely upon the life force to do that, the pure sentience that you are. And when you leave that body, it has no more intelligence then. Before you decided to animate this body, the body didn't have any ability to realize anything. So the body is innately innocent and pure, but kind of insentient in the way that it relies upon, it needs the input from the senses. So we can prove this right now. If I realize I am the awareness, there's awareness here right now. So are you aware? If you ask yourself that question, are you aware? To answer that question, there's a looking and a checking inside. It's not a looking with your eyes or anything in the body, is it, that's going on? It's not any of the senses that check that. There's just an inner knowing that comes from someplace. Yes, awareness is present. If you want to recognize, listen to the silence. If you put your fingers in your ears, you can still hear the silence, even with if you close your eyes, you can still, even with your eyes closed, sense the awareness. You're not using the body for that. You can search your being. Am I a separate being? Can't find a separate being. You're not doing that with your body and your senses. Check this out, yeah? Really look at this. With your mind too, is your mind realizing this? You said, is it of the awareness or is it of the body-mind? Well, I did this by negation. It's not my body that's realizing this. Nothing wrong with my body, but it doesn't have the capacity to see the awareness. Does my mind have the capacity? What is my mind then? Is it my mind that's realizing this? Well, my mind just happens to be a bunch of thoughts in a linear succession. What we're calling mind is just one thought in a chain after the next, in a somewhat unbroken throughout the waking state for most people, and then an absence of anything. Mind doesn't exist in deep sleep, or when the body is absent, gone. So mind is dependent upon the body. The body is dependent upon the mind. Both of those are dependent upon the awareness. Can you have a thought if there's no awareness to perceive it? If you had an epiphany right now as you're listening to this, oh my God, I've just had this huge seeing. Wouldn't there be awareness there to see it? Would it mean anything without the awareness there first to see the epiphany come and go? The realization happens and something sees it. So what is it that's realizing? Can awareness be seen by mind? Mind being a finite thing in one place in time and space in a human body. Can something that's in one corner of this vast universe, this representing universe, one human body right in a corner of it somewhere, wherever your body happens to be, can it see the wholeness, the continuous unfolding, indivisible wholeness that is your real nature? when you're looking from one point in time and space. Seems that way, but can it? Can you see everywhere at all times from somewhere? Can you do that? So when you recognize the awareness, it doesn't have any edges, it doesn't have any form, it doesn't have any endings, beginnings. It doesn't change. It's not coming and going. It's always here. Can something local and finite recognize that, like your body or your mind? Or is it, in fact, that the presence of a body and mind give this awareness contrast, a sense of opposite, not actual, a sense of being someone located in time and space, moving around inside time and space, aging, learning, changing, evolving, realizing, gives the awareness the contrast is needed to turn around and go, but there's something that seems to be opposite. There's something that's not changing, not coming and going, not growing, not unfolding. It just is. So it's not using the body mind to wake up to itself directly, but it can kind of go through perceiving opposite. So because I can see this color, I can recognize this color. Without that one, I have no reference point for this one. Because I can experience cold, I can get a handle on what hot is. Because I can experience lack, I can get a handle on what abundance is. Because I can experience being myself, finite, limited, someone, somewhere, being born and dying, I can get a handle on that which has never been born, ever, could never be, that is eternal and unbroken, indivisible and unchanging. So it's the awareness itself that recognizes itself. But these words won't really help unless that comes with an urge in you. For me, I had to prove this to myself. I did it just like I've shown you here. Can the body, I didn't just take that as mental knowledge, can the body recognize the awareness? Well, not really. It's a telescope for me to look at the manifestation, or binoculars for me to look at closer at manifestation, what it looks like from one corner of time and space. But without me looking through it, it's useless. And I don't mean the body's useless. I just mean it's a tool, it's a vehicle, it's a home, a house. Is a house any good if nobody ever lives in it? Is it really a house if nobody ever lives in it? So it's a insentient tool, really. It's beautiful and a creation made out of love, but it doesn't have the capacity to recognize. And of course, everything I've just said is utter nonsense when you realize the body is awareness too. And then from that place, everything that arises out of awareness is awareness. All of this world of form, universe, everything, the only thing we've ever encountered is awareness, either looking like something or someone, or looking like nothing, emptiness. And then from there, the question becomes irrelevant. Am I realizing this with my body, mind, or with my awareness, with the awareness? Is it recognizing itself? So it's one of those yes and no things. And you might not be at that final bit there just now. I'm just putting that in to inspire the next unfolding for you in that which isn't unfolding. I hope that helps. Amazing questions, and thank you for your love and your well wishings over the holiday season and into the new year. I do try to read every comment that comes on YouTube, and I'm deeply grateful for them all. So great place to leave it for this video. So if you have any questions, or you want to comment on anything I've said, or you're having an epiphany you'd like to share, if you're struggling, having a really hard time too, I am here. You can simply leave a comment under this video, and then at the beginning of February I'll take some time to address and answer these the best I can. I hope you as you're watching this, you're feeling peace. If you're not feeling peace, know that you are loved, and that through this opposite seeming experience of disturbance, suffering, only then can we know what peace is. So I look forward to your questions coming and your sharings. I would love to hear about your challenges too. I'd like to help, and your successes, and these deep, wonderful questions that you've put forward are really quite joyful and stimulating for me, and I hope they are for you too. Thank you, and a happy new year to you. Namaste.